Please welcome to the stage Axios transportation correspondent, Joann Muller.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I am Joann Muller. I'm the transportation correspondent for Axios. I cover a lot of issues around electric vehicles and energy, the future of energy, and that's exactly what we're here to talk about today, the future of energy and sustainability in Pennsylvania. So thank you, Pittsburgh, for having us. Without further ado, I want to make sure, though, if you're following along on our live stream right now, please use the hashtag Axios Events. Now, I'd like to welcome our first speaker. She's the CEO of the Allegheny Conference on Community Development, Stefani Pashman. Welcome.
Good morning, Joann.
Thank you so much for being here.
And welcome to Pittsburgh.
It is such a cool town. I'm from Detroit, so there's some similarities. I think we've been through a lot.
We absolutely have.
But Pittsburgh continues to evolve. And so now as we think about this transition to cleaner, greener energy, the implications couldn't be any bigger for Pittsburgh, right? So can you talk first about what makes this region so unique from an energy standpoint?
Sure. So, Joann, this idea of transition that breeds resilience is very much in the DNA of Pittsburgh. I think if you know our history of multiple renaissances where we had to find our way, right? Post-World War II, our air was dirty, our rivers were overflowing, and it didn't look so good to be here. And we had to find a way to clean that up, and a bunch of powerful business people figured that out. And then we had the steel collapse, right? And many pieces in between, and each one of those required us to dig deep and say, how do we reinvent ourselves? And now we look at this moment where we have an incredible history in energy on a variety of fronts, whether it's the natural resources that we live on top of, or the know-how coming out of our universities to think about the future of energy. We have to figure out how to make energy clean. We have to continue to support our manufacturing base and those hard-to-abate industries that are very much part of our industrial core. And we have a real opportunity here and an imperative.
I was surprised to find out just how much the rest of the country depends on Pennsylvania energy. You're such a big exporter, which is great, good for the economy, of course, right? But it also means a lot of harmful emissions. So can you talk a little bit more about the Allegheny Conference's vision on how do you decarbonize these hard-to-abate industries?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're an organization that's existed for 8 decades. And what we do is bring people together to tackle the biggest problems, and we do it through public-private partnership, working with labor and universities and our philanthropy to think about what it means to move our region forward on a variety of fronts. And we're doing that with a lens of a triple bottom line at every moment. So
what does that mean?
A triple bottom line means we need the economy to grow and thrive, we need this place to look good, for our air to be clean, for our waters to be clean, to be a usable community that has green spaces, and we need people to thrive, right? So people, place, economy. And it's always a balancing act, especially when it comes to energy, right? So at this moment, we sit where we rely heavily, as you said, on energy to fuel our economy, whether it's nuclear, through Westinghouse that has their headquarters in our backyard, through the Shell that has built a plant here. You're going to hear from Emma soon from Shell, who lives in our backyard, from the work they're doing, to a variety of clean energy companies that have grown up in our midst recently. And each of those has a place in our economy. And so what we're trying to do here is balance the sources, the uses, and how that affects our environment at every point.
Would you say that any of those factors are more important than the others?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily more important, because you can't do one without the other. If we kill our workforce or our people, don't have quality of life here, it really doesn't matter how many jobs we create, right? Because nobody will be here. So we do have to be very intentional when we think about our communities and how they fit into an energy economy.
So you talked about jobs. I'd love to hear, what is this region doing to actually retrain workers to give them the skills for a cleaner, greener energy industry?
Yeah. So one of the things about Pittsburgh, because we have such a diversified economy, whether it's not just energy, it's not just manufacturing, right? Many folks know about our eds and meds being a real fuel to our economy as well. And because of that, we don't necessarily think of it as a one-to-one solution. We take old energy like coal and we put them into clean energy jobs. We really think about it more holistically, right? So when we think about community and coal-impacted communities that are in our broader Southwest PA footprint, like in Indiana County, Greene County, Fayette County, what we're trying to do is help each community find their own future, working at the community level to say, what is it going to take for you to transition? And in some cases, that means we take those workers and we retrain them, right? When natural gas emerged here, we developed a whole platform of training and fueling jobs through our community colleges and our labor unions into jobs in the natural gas sector, right? And we do it again and again. Right now, we have a very thriving program that we were fortunate to get federal funding on called the Build Back Better Regional Cluster Challenge that's focusing on robotics and autonomy and the jobs in that space. We have a great story of the United Mine Workers doing training programs in Greene County to think about how to path former coal workers into robotics and technology jobs.
Really?
So this isn't a one-to-one proposition. This is, what does each community need? Where are the jobs there? How do we build the potential for those communities and move them into the future-focused economy?
Well, let's just dig into that example a little bit if we can. So you have, these are coal workers who are now getting involved in robotics and autonomy. Doesn't seem like those skills are transferable. So how do you get them from here to there?
Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate to have a very robust training ecosystem that starts with, as I said, labor union and pre-apprenticeship programs through apprenticeship, all the way through community colleges and a variety of other, four-year degree institutions. And because of that, we've been able to build the connective tissue among them in a variety of ways so they can fuel training programs and create pathways for individuals.
Mm-hmm. And so, where are you on that path? Is your workforce ready now? Or do you still have a lot of work to do?
I think there's always work to do, right? I mean, right now we got to create the jobs, right? So we're a little bit at a moment of, there are first movers in the energy sector that we got to make sure we continue to fuel so they can develop the jobs, be positioned for the future economy, right? Whether it's the Eatons in our backyard who are building grid modernization solutions, or the work we see, as I mentioned Westinghouse earlier, they're building, they built a plant in Etna to fuel their microreactors, and they're building small modular reactor technology to create a future-focused nuclear economy. We need to take advantage of all these opportunities in our region. Each of those will be job creators, and then we have to think about what that connects to our education and training system.
And how about at the high school level? Are students learning about these new industries? Is there a funnel into these new places?
Yeah, so I think the thing about Pittsburgh is, and it's very much the same in Michigan, is right, we got a lot of municipalities, and even in this county alone, we have 43 school districts. So this is not a straightforward answer to say every school district is doing the same thing. I think there's school districts and really great programs in this region that are helping, create awareness, and then there's obviously an immense amount of work to do and many communities that are left out of that. And so that's the kind of work that we have to continue to fuel and know that it is not straightforward.
Yeah. So I wanted to zoom in on a couple of these high-profile projects. You mentioned a couple of them already. One that caught my interest is CNX, which is a big natural gas producer. They are talking about building a $1.5 billion facility at the Pittsburgh airport to make hydrogen and sustainable aviation fuel, I believe, right? Sounds great, but there is a catch. This is kind of contingent on federal tax credits, and the way that the federal government, the Treasury Department, defines eligibility for those credits could have a massive impact on whether or not that project goes forward, as I understand it, right?
That's absolutely true. I mean, you've hit on an example that really elucidates many of the dynamics that we're dealing with right now in fueling a decarbonized future in this region. So first of all, you have a company, CNX, that has operated in our backyard and has really trying to think about pushing innovation to the extent possible to take a dirty company, right? Quote unquote dirty, and make it clean and create innovative solutions that not only propel our economy, but can actually propel the energy sector at large. So methane emissions are a major air quality problem for us, right? We have these leaking mines, and we need to figure out how to capture that methane and use it in a productive way. And so they've come up with a coal mine methane technology. It's kind of a hydrogen derivative, and they need a way to actually bring that to market. They partner, and again, this is back to the fabric of public-private partnership. This is what we do. We have a really innovative airport that knows how to tap into the private sector for solutions, and partners come together and say, how can we use what are the know-how coming out of this very progressive company and bring it into an airport that is trying to make sure to put Pittsburgh on the map globally. And so what's needed to make that happen is obviously capital and investment, but it starts with the federal government opportunity that we see right now of, the variety of ways we can fund programs in the energy sector through the Department of Energy. There's a tax credit called 45V that's right now for regulations, and we're waiting for guidance on how to implement this. And what we need is for that 45V tax credit to apply to a variety of energy sources, including hydrogen. And so assuming we can build coal mine methane into an eligible use in 45V, we can get this project going at the airport and start to create jobs, fuel what they are saying over $1 billion of economic activity, and have a way to clean up the methane that's leaking right now in our air.
And what are you hearing from Washington?
Look, we're working really hard. Senator Casey has been a wonderful partner with us and is working at every level to try and make this happen. Mm-hmm. We're very encouraged. Our partners in labor are in lockstep with us to make this happen because we know how much of an economic driver this could be for us. Yeah. And that's really what this is about, is there are multiple ways we lift up this energy economy, and we need to work on all fronts because the region needs it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, hydrogen and sustainable aviation fuel are both huge and could do a lot, but it's very hard to make both of them.
Exactly.
And I think that they have such promise, and yet
exactly,
it's hard to get supplies.
Yeah, I mean, I think this issue on the hard-to-abate industries is a multi-pronged challenge, right? Mm-hmm. We talked about workforce, we talk about jobs, we talk about different ways people have to work in companies into the future. But even more significantly, there's a lot of policy levers that have to be unlocked to make sure that these companies can source what they need, can permit what they need, can have rights to use the land the way they need to capture carbon. The list goes on. And that's where we're working, is to say, how do we keep breaking down the barriers to create the opportunity?
Well, obviously policy is playing an important role in all of this. I'm wondering which policies you think will have the biggest bang for the buck, and also what is government not doing that you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. So I don't know that there is one particular policy lever. I think the issue is that each one of these has a different path forward, right? So when we think about nuclear and the path forward there, it's a very different proposition than thinking about how to capture carbon and what we need to do on the land side of things. And so the issue is having inspired political leadership at our state level, which has been very refreshing, and Governor Shapiro, who's willing to work with us on these solutions, being able to work across state lines on multi-governor, ideas and multi-state operations, and also having a federal predisposition to a multifaceted energy economy. Mm-hmm. And that's what's important in Pittsburgh, is that we have an opportunity to unlock potential across a lot of sources, mm-hmm. and we want to see them all deliver. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that there's a magic bullet, but there's more of an intentionality and a commitment to continuing to work at this and break down the barriers.
Right, okay. There is a fair bit of funding available.
There sure is.
I'm curious, what is the Allegheny Conference doing to help companies access and communities access that money? Like, what is your role in all that?
So one of our significant priorities right now is thinking about how Pittsburgh gets its fair share of federal funding. We've been getting about 14% of funding from statewide. We think we should be getting at least 20%. So we're putting in place a variety of tools and making sure that especially companies are aware. I think that's one of the unique things about a lot of the federal funding that's coming down right now, is that companies can access these, especially energy companies. Mm-hmm. The Department of Energy is replete with loan programs and opportunities for companies to fuel their sustainability goals. And so we have a company right now that we've been working with to expand called EOS, that's building battery technology, zinc-based, in one of our suburbs in Turtle Creek. And they are in need, we help them unlock the potential of a loan program at the federal level so they can use that to start to build out their capacity here, build out their workforce, but they needed us to help connect to the community. And that's one of the key pieces here is the Justice 40 initiatives that ensure that each of these programs that come at the federal level are connected to community, that are focused on inclusion, that are focused on bringing community along. That's one of the pieces we really help companies with is how do we make you aware of the opportunity? How do we help you align it within your needs, within your corporate mission, that it becomes a business proposition for you, and then how do you connect that back to community to make it a viable proposition for you?
Well, I'm sure that with you on their side, things are getting done. So thank you, Stefani. We're out of time, unfortunately, so we'll have to leave it there. But thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you, Joanne. It's a pleasure. Thank you for coming to Pittsburgh.
Thank you.